T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Launch Sequence podcast. We're back at it again. And my friends, I've got a surprise for you this week. Yes, we are a space game podcast. Yes, we're always doing Star Citizen stuff. And yes, we are talking about a different game this week, at least for a little bit. JumpShip has come out. Yeah, and both me and my friend here, TheAstroPub, have been waiting for this for a good while. We've been wanting to play it together. So I'm definitely going to pick your brain about it because we gotten to finally play the demo and get through a little bit more of what the game has to offer. And maybe, see if any of you who are listening or watching are interested in something like this. But also, we're going to be talking about the new Star Citizen update coming out, 4.2. It's coming in about 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half from the time of publishing this. And it is called Stormbreaker. It's got a big activity in it. This activity's got a lot of conversation and gnashing of teeth. And I want to talk more about that, why that's happening, what this activity is offering. Is this going to be good for the game, or are they just kind of throwing stuff in that's not actually helping? So one of my favorite guests to honestly talk about this kind of a wide range of subjects with, I know we just had him on another episode, guys. I'm sorry, a little Paul obsessed, but bear with me. It's going to be a good talk.
It's almost a tradition at this point where whenever Tomato has to talk about something other than Star Citizen, it's like me and Tomato are the ones like space game. So it's like
literally
space game.
It's like Cyberpunk's coming out. Where's Paul? Starfield's coming out. Where's Paul? Outer Worlds 2 is going to be, I think, coming out later this year, and I'm probably going to have you back on to talk about it.
They announced Cyberpunk 2 is in production now.
Yes.
Cyberpunk's actually getting a DLC in a couple weeks.
Ooh, wait,
brand new.
Oh, it's just like an update, right? It's not actual content.
No, it's DLC.
What?
Yeah,
I thought Phantom Liberty was the last one.
Yeah, I thought so too. But the hints are that, like, there was a post that the head of content at CD Projekt Red said, "I got one more in me, boss," and
we love to hear it.
It seems like it's whatever they were when they were building the Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk 2077. They may have added a little bit more to the regular version as well. So they probably that process. So
that's great to hear, because I don't think they would have done that. I mean, I guess anybody can come to the conclusion they wouldn't have done that if the game hadn't still had a good like midlife. That launch. Everybody saw that launch and was like, okay, when's the sequel?
I literally have been playing it because I've been waiting to have time. So I've actually gone through and played it and was like, oh, man, this is a good game. Like, I enjoyed it when it first came out, but it's like, and if you haven't played Cyberpunk since it originally released, it is a completely different game. They've changed, not just like graphics and fixed the bugs. Like, they overhauled the mechanics. Like, they figured out how to make the game better as a mechanics when it comes to like grenades and like items and health items and stuff like that.
Progression's better too.
Yeah.
I was definitely the kind of person who was not super pleased with how hard action adventure it leaned rather than RPG. And that's kind of, I think that's partially my fault, right? You think it's based on a TTRPG, so it's going to be really in-depth. You kind of think, oh, this is going to be kind of like what Baldur's Gate was. It's the same sort of idea. But it was more along the lines of, I would say, what maybe,
Red Dead Redemption 2. It's Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah. It's very similar. It's very similar to that. But even Red Dead Redemption 2, it feels like you can roleplay a lot more in the world. This one, not only was I disappointed that the demo that they showed us for the advertising made it feel like the whole game was kind of built around those sort of mechanics, it was also just the fact that the starting background really got me, where like you would pick the starting background and then they would put you through like maybe 30 minutes of a particular intro, and then they would show you this like cut scene of all the cool things that you did from that life. And I was just, I don't know, there were some things that really bugged me. I agree, it's a lot better game now. Still didn't really get to that RPG vibe that I was hoping for, but I think that they were a little nervous about going too deep with that, to be honest, with the
Yeah.
the weight of that game, and I hope that the sequel they do a little more.
Well, I do think that, and this is sort of because we're now on a sidetrack a little bit, but I'll end up with I think because I've played the RPG or the TP RPG, and I think the the game that they built has all the bones of it, but it's missing the choices is
Yeah.
the issue. It's just missing the choices. But they've got the bones there. They have the
Mhm.
storytelling right, and they have the characterization and the culture right. So maybe with part 2, and maybe I know that they were planning on doing it and they sort of pitched around with it, so maybe they'll bring it back up, a multiplayer version. My Speaking of Jump Ship is my favorite genre, which is 4 idiots save the world for $4 and or a sandwich.
Or a
Um,
pizza.
yeah, or a pizza. Yeah, in this case, pizza and a beer for
Hmm.
the combo pizza and a beer. Um, and I think that's the thing about TTRPG based games is you kind of have to have that feeling because that's sort of what a TTRPG is. It's a bunch of idiots trying to save the world, and you get to role play whoever you want to be. That's what
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate did so well. Is all the characters inside Baldur's Gate felt like idiots who were trying to save the world. You like people you would see across a table in a TTRPG. And I think if they were able to bring back that co-op multiplayer stuff they were planning on doing as a sequel for Cyberpunk, um, with like a 4 player co-op aspect with the whole story, that whole story element, I think it would be it's a perfect content fodder, but also perfect like just that sort of experience of like your friend decides to go poke around in the wrong place and is definitely not the right hacker to do this job.
Yeah. And
you
you lost your
know?
whole team because you decided to send them in for the mission instead of somebody
Yeah.
else. But I mean, that's
Yeah.
Mass Effect too, right? That's
Yeah.
it, the layout is there and people love it, and I hope that they can go for that more. I feel honestly like their Witcher games did that a little bit better than
Oh yeah.
Cyberpunk did,
So
which is the next game they're going to have. We're talking about Cyberpunk 2, whatever they're going to call it, but this game's probably like 7-8 years out minimum from right
yeah.
now. So
Oh yeah,
we're
because
talking about it
Witcher's
now. We'll
a couple
revisit
years,
this.
but yeah. Well, when Cyberpunk 2 is announced, me and Space Tomato will have a live sequence podcast to just talk about Cyberpunk and how Cyberpunk is actually a space game. Um,
Tune in. Tune in, guys. You go to space, all right? It is a space game. I saw somebody say, oh man, what were they somebody compared JumpShip to Mass Effect, dude. And like all of the comments were like, bro, why are you making this comparison? This isn't even close. They're both in space. All right. That's
yeah.
that's where that ends. But that's
If I
that's
was,
where it is. I mean, JumpShip's gonna be a Star Citizen killer too, right?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because for the longest time they actually had on their FAQ. So is this like Star Citizen? And the devs were like, no, no, we're both
Wait,
in
was that?
space.
Oh
That
my,
was Jump Ship.
that was this one. Okay, that was back when it
Yeah,
had the other name, right?
yeah. Hyperspace. It used to be called hyperspace. Yeah.
Yeah. See, dude, I knew Jump Ship had another name and I could not figure it out. And I knew there was an FAQ for a space game I had seen maybe a year and a half ago that
Mhm.
made that joke, and I could not find it. I was searching all the things. I was searching like the Verse project. I was searching StarCraft, all of the things that seemed kind of similar to Star Citizen. I was like, somebody said this. I know they did, and I couldn't find it. But yeah,
That was Jump Ship.
it's. I mean, let's get into it. This game is, dude. It is what I have wanted for a very long time. It's not like the ultimate game, but ever since Sea of Thieves came out, I remember I was there on that first day when it went live, and it was just chaos, and it was just not the game that it is now. But all I could think was, man, if this and spaceships. And I know, guys, Void Crew exists, but I love a first person
Mhm.
game.
Yeah, I don't know. I've played Void Crew, and I've played this. I like this better than Void Crew because Void Crew feels very survival sim, whereas this feels more like Sea of Thieves. Like I will say, this is I have been hyped for this game for a while because, like I said, I've discovered my favorite genre of video game is 4 idiots save the world for $4 and or a pizza. Um, and so when I've discovered that at least one of the devs used to work for Ghost Ship Games, which was the company that made Deep Rock Galactic. A lot of
Ah,
them are also Dice devs, so you can see that Dice DNA in there. Um, and what was I going to say? Um, it's just it's clear that they play their own game. It's one of those games where if you play it, you're like they play their own game. They know they want to play their game. These are devs who are making this game because it's a passion for them to make this game. Um, and the
can you?
crazy part is it's got story. It's got lore.
Yeah,
It
that's
has
nice.
it has an actual plot.
I do wish so. It kind of opened up with a little bit of the narrative thing, and the first thing I thought when I saw that was the game that has nailed that balance of story and just crunchy fun game like this in the most like the last maybe 4 or 5 years was Hard Space Shipbreaker, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just nailed that lore and made that world feel alive. And I hope this one does as well. I haven't gotten that deep into it. But what is like the general loop you would say that will bring people into this game?
So I mean, you and I both have played the intro. So the intro is just how you get your ship. And once you get your ship, you go on a mission to get more parts. But as part of that, you also find upgrade parts. So you when you go on missions, you want to like salvage anything you possibly can because you need to get new weapons, new equipment, new like personal weapons, and you can also get upgrade items. So like healing items or defense items or one-time use. Like there's a railgun you can get, which is a one-time use weapon. Well, it's like a three-shot weapon, but you discard it. But it's like a
Does it come with an
one-hit
Idris?
kill.
Sorry, I had
Yes, yes.
to.
It comes with Idris Elba. He just shows up, starts punching people. Um, it's so like the loop is you upgrade your ship,
Mhm.
and like when you first play the game, I also like to plug this. It's free on Steam until the 16th. So if you want to go play the demo, it's available for another week or so. I don't know when
Yeah.
this is going out, but at least through next week.
Yeah. The original date
Um,
they were going to drop it, they just kind of dropped it early out of nowhere.
yeah, I think it was a good call because I'm sure they looked at their demographics and were like, "Oh, Dune's coming out. This
Yeah.
is going to have a lot of crossover with Dune. We need to get people's eyes on this before Dune goes
Yeah, that's a
live."
good point.
You know, because everyone I know who would be playing JumpShip is playing Dune Awakening right now.
Right, yeah. Dune just launched on what, Thursday?
Yeah.
So that
Uh,
just I mean, sci-fi fans are eating pretty well right now. Usually it's fantasy that's getting all the games, and of course there will always be more fantasy games coming out, but being a sci-fi fan is not bad compared to the 2010s.
oh yeah. No, I mean, even the people who made Last of Us are making. I think it's Last of Us. Are
Yeah.
making a space game now.
Yeah,
So
Naughty Dog.
like Naughty Dog. So I'm not gonna talk about Respawn. Me and Respawn are enemies right now. I'm fighting uh with all of
Oh,
the
Titanfall.
it hurts so much. It's not just Titanfall, it's also the next Star Wars game is basically dead. Like there's just no more games coming out from Respawn other than Apex Legends. So
Star Wars Eclipse.
Jedi. No,
Oh, they stopped the
the
Jedi
Eclipse
series?
was yeah. Well, the guy who was working on the Jedi series quit or was
Uh,
fired, one of the two. Like
yeah,
the lead writer.
Eclipse is Quantic Dream, right?
Yeah. And they were also working on another Star Wars game that was also canceled. So yeah, me and Respawn are not happy right now. I am not happy with Respawn, especially with Titanfall being the eternal carrot that is just in
The
the distance and then they
the
cancel
always
it.
maybe. The always
They
maybe.
always come back to
Well,
it. They always find a way to come back to try to make it, and then EA is like, "You're making that game again? No!" And then just hit them like, "Stop it!"
sorry, we're firing you all. But
Yeah.
jump ship is a breath of fresh air, and
Yes.
upgrading ships is fun. That is good times. But that's like in the heat of the moment. What is it that's really exciting?
It's just what you can do on the ship. Like all of the unique aspects, it feels very tight. Like the gameplay is very tight in the same way that say Sea of Thieves is very tight, where like you can always do something, and there is just enough sort of downtime in places where you can have those sort of run around the ship and jump around and dance and do emotes and stuff like that with each other. Um, and while it seems easy at first, the difficulty ramps up very quickly.
Okay.
Like you start fighting like fighters and gunships, and gunships take a couple of shots to take down, whereas like fighters take like one or two shots. And you can have like a co-pilot who somebody else who's on the guns who's firing like the secondary guns. Um, but like in the first combat I did, I was playing with HG Vertigo, and we managed to kill like everyone without any problem. And then the second combat we did, one of the fighters hit us and immediately started to fire, and the fire spread all over the lower decks. And we're like, "Oh, what? How do we?" And so Vertigo and I were running around trying to find these fire extinguishers to put them out. And eventually, while the fighter was still flying around us, shooting at us, and so I was like, okay, so I could see how this is going to get much harder very quickly.
Yeah. And then,
um,
so sorry, go ahead.
well, so then eventually we got to the point where it was a little harder mission, and one of those was, I think, a frigate was when we had to face down, and the frigate had multiple rocket launches which auto tracked you, and there was no way to guide to break them off.
Jeez.
You just had to kind of like use debris or like get lucky, and it had a rail gun. So it was trying to hit you, it would hit you from afar. Luckily, we had unlocked a railgun, so we were playing peekaboo around a debris field trying to shoot them until Vertigo says, "I wonder if we can board that ship." And I'm like, "Well, we could board everything else. Try it." So he jumped out of the ship and flew over to the ship, boarded the ship, killed all of the robots piloting the ship, and then self-destructed the ship and got out. It was like,
See, that's not we take, I think Star Citizen players take for granted the ability to leave your ship in space and
mhm,
and get on board other ships. There aren't that many games that allow you to do that. There's plenty of games that allow you to get onto a ship and walk around it, or walk on your ship and then off on a planet. But EVAing specifically seems to be something that's kind of hard for games to work in. And the fact that they got that into a game so focused around party gameplay,
mhm.
it's going to make this such a unique experience.
Yeah. And it's like the grapple hook is a great example because it's a super easy way for you to transition from one place to another. Um, it feels tight. The controls feel really well done, and I mean that's where I say it's clear some dice devs made this game because it feels like a Battlefield game in that
Hmm.
sort of the movement and stuff like that. But it's almost Titanfall movement. The only thing they need to add for it to be Titanfall movement is sliding. If they added sliding, power sliding, this thing would be damn near Titanfall in terms of how
Everybody's
tight it is
favorite,
in terms of movements.
everyone's favorite maneuver.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's the best movement shooter, and that slide is so iconic for any movement shooter. You just can't slide. That's the other problem.
so you are fighting other spaceships. You're
Mhm.
putting out fires. You're boarding them. You're repairing things on your ship as you do all this stuff. Um, but there's also options to like go down to planets and take on missions in FPS combat outside of the spaceship.
Mhm.
Two questions. First, you haven't mentioned that yet. Is that not as
It's
interesting
not in
as the space stuff?
it, it's not in the demo.
Okay.
The FPS stuff on planets isn't in the demo.
Okay.
However, there is FPS on Rex. So a lot of the missions are right now to like one of them I believe is, which I haven't gotten to, which is like an ambush a convoy. So you have to like ambush a transport ship and then board the transport ship and then steal stuff from the transport ship and then get away.
Hmm.
And the other one is finding salvaged wrecks. So you have to like board the salvage wreck FPS style, get in, get the stuff, and get out. And there's a lot of like when you fly from one point to another, because there's a map where you go fly from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C, and then leave. And there probably is going to be more traversal routes. It's very FTL inspired in terms of like you have multiple routes to reach your target, but you
Hmm.
always have to stop and do something. And it's usually some sort of like FTL jammer. And so the idea is you have to go to that point, you have to clear out the enemies, you have to board the FTL jammer, and then you have to blow up the FTL jammer. And you do that by like setting off, like, oh yeah, set off the self-destruct sequence. And then it requires you to go around and blow up a bunch of like parts of the FTL jammer. And then you have to come back and then finish off the self-destruct sequence. And you have to get off of the thing before it explodes. And then you can gather the salvage from it, and then which can be like upgrades to your ship. The first time we did it, I got a shotgun, so you can run around with a shot. I got a shotgun, and you can get like ammo crates, so then you can use those ammo crates to set down, then refill your shotgun.
Okay.
And you get these things called materia, which you then use to like make other things. You have a 3D printer on board. You can make ship parts, FPS equipment, and you unlock those patterns as you go through. So like you can kind of like learn how to make more things as you go through, including power upgrades and armor and shield upgrades and stuff like that.
So you've got a pretty wide amount of mechanics here. I mean, space ship combat, FPS combat, essentially like engineering maintenance work. You can pilot the ship, you can board other ships, you can craft stuff, you're upgrading your ships. It's pretty fully featured. Does this feel like something that you think could make it outside of our space nerd bubble? It's like mainstream contender?
Oh, I think it has the potential of being a Sea of Thieves or even Helldivers sort of experience for people, because there is a story there. The story is, for those of you who don't know, the short story, and I'm not going to go over to the longer story, is humanity has these robots, these AI, and for
Classic.
some reason, a virus takes them over, and they turn hostile to humanity. So humanity is on the run.
That
And
virus was called Clear Thought. They're like, these humans suck.
Yeah. And so they the you're basically one of the last humans left alive, and there's a resistance movement that you're being recruited into that you have to go find and help them out. And so the missions are you taking the last FTL capable ship that you've discovered and flying your way, the last jump ship you discovered, to find your way to the resistance to help fight off the evil like main hive mind, which is at the center of the galaxy.
Fitting.
So it's very classic sci-fi trope. I know why people, I know we said before the show, we talked about how someone compared this to Mass Effect. It was like, what? It's like, it's got the Mass Effect vibe in the sense of you're fighting a bunch of robots. There are some AI overlord you're trying to destroy. That's the closest thing you can get to in terms of comparing it to Mass Effect. But
it also kind of, it looked like when I was scrolling through the map, it looked like it had that sense of players are waging a consistent, persistent war, and like it will change territories over time as players jump into this kind of like Helldivers did. Is that the case, or did it just look like that?
What was that?
Is there like an ongoing war that players feed into in the multiplayer aspect? Because when you look at the map, they've got like these territories and stuff. Those are just levels to go to.
Those are just levels for players, for your individual player. It's more of it's got the Helldivers sort of feel in terms of like it's a progressing story, but it's not Helldivers in terms of like it's everyone is doing the war that's going back and forth. You like, as far as the story is, you are the chosen one. You and your 4 friends are the chosen ones, essentially. So it's more Deep Rock Galactic coded in the sense of like you just go to different missions and do things and you unlock certain things. Which is not surprising since I said, Ghost Ship Games, one of the guys who worked for Ghost Ship Games, talks about it a lot.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, I would put this in the same pile as like Deep Rock Galactic, as we've mentioned plenty of times, Sea of Thieves, even Satisfactory. I kind of feel like it's that same niche of what this does. They all feel like the sort of party popcorn style game that I look to enjoy when I don't want to get into Star Citizen. And that's kind of my last question with this is between the art style, obviously it's different. It's not aiming to be a simulation or anything that's like really in depth in terms of like space flight and survival, but there's hints of engineering, space combat, FPS combat. Like, is this the kind of thing that you think Star Citizen players specifically are going to be really into?
It depends on the player. If you're a hardcore sweaty, I want Star Citizen to be a sim, nah, you're probably not going to like this. If you're a fan of like, hey, I want multi-crew gameplay and I want to have fun with my friends in a PvE environment, then yeah, I think this is sort of game that you will enjoy. Maybe not a game you sink your teeth into and play endless hours, but it's definitely a game where you and four people can play and enjoy pickup games because like the average mission is 20 minutes, maybe more like 10 minutes. So it's super short gameplay. It's like nice little quick. So you can do
Bite
a lot
size.
of gameplay. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, that's.
Um,
I'm excited to get more into this game. I haven't gotten to sink my teeth in. I've barely gotten into it, but I am.
it's good.
Yeah.
It's one of those games where I've been following for a while and I'm always afraid, like, oh yeah, this game looks really good. I hope it's good. And then it comes out, I'm like, maybe I was
Yeah,
a little
or
too
like,
optimistic.
or it feels like it's always kind of gonna get satisfactory for the longest time. I was just like, come on, you're gonna get there. Falling Frontier's another one. I feel for the dev because that project has expanded a ton, but it's so
Mhm.
exciting and it's been so many years, and I'm like, please, can we see it? And then obviously Star Citizen. It's nice to see a game like JumpShip come out. Hasn't come out yet, but it's nice to see it looking like it's on the road to come out with a nice, successful release for space people to enjoy. We need more of that.
It's also important to note that it is early access, and like it's a demo right now, but they're going to release it into early access, so it's not going to be a
Okay.
full fledged game when they release it.
Oh, I thought it was going to release as a full. Well, okay. All right. Never
Um,
mind.
but
Scratch that. Sorry, guys.
but with its release, there's going to be a lot to sink your teeth into. It's like it's early access in the sense that I don't think they have all of the content in.
Hmm.
The features are there. Like
Okay.
already the features are there with the demo, and I can't imagine they're going to add many more features in terms of like in depth. They talked about things like having more than one ship. They want to have one ship, but they may have maybe another ship you can upgrade to. Um, but the core gameplay is there. So if you like the demo, which again, it's out for a while, so you can go try it right now if you watch this early enough. You like that demo, that's what you're going to get for the game. That is the meat and potatoes of the game.
I am going to sink into that next week. Looking forward to it. With that, folks, let us talk about Star Citizen because we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about this week. And fleeting time. Before we get into that, I'm going to give you guys a chance to go and get your drinks, get your snacks, make your phone calls, let your parents know that you're listening to the podcast, send them a link, let your dog listen as well. I want to apologize because my camera looks worse than it normally does right now, which I'm not saying much. I am. We lost a graphics card on the way back over here, and I am not having RAM that works correctly with my computer. So this first week back after we move, a little hectic. We'll be right back to normal next week. Don't worry. You can still listen. I assume the audio is coming through well. Won't know until afterwards, but assumptions go pretty far in this industry.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Star Citizen because 4.2 is around the corner, about 2 weeks out, and it's another kind of like themed one. It has a name to it, Stormbreaker. Just like 4.1 had a line in mind, and even 4.0, it wasn't called Supply or Die, but that kind of dominated that era. It's definitely shown a theme this year with
Mhm.
the way that they've been updating. So, first question to you regarding all of this is, with this characterization of the year through like high visibility updates and sort of hype and a little bit of FOMO, do you think that this strategy is working? Is it wearing thin for people? Or are the people who are kind of less happy about how they're doing this a vocal minority?
I'm going to say something daring and bold that's going to make people mad, but if you're mad about this, you are a minority.
Put it in the comments, folks.
It's
Tell them how terrible he is.
you can tell me I'm awful and say I'm evil or whatever, but the reality is both the citizen, like the new people signing up for the game numbers and the funding numbers don't lie. Like it's clear that people are coming back to the game who left the game a while ago. That's from what I've been able to see just from my community, let alone just the community at large. And new people are finding the game. as much as I hate it, CIG has managed to weaponize bad news. Like they so like all of that bad news about CIG and like the Blade controversy, which I'm not going to get into that because people feel like it's been done to death. And I personally believe, and people who've seen my video about it know that I personally believe this is a symptom of a larger issue that CIG needs to address, because if they don't, it will bite them a year from now rather than
People are
right
already
away.
downvoting, man.
Yeah. We look at
Takes
you
just
look at
5
it.
seconds.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the community reaction, it's clear that there's something beyond just this the issue at hand. Make sure my camera's there. We go. So like that is a problem, but it also means that they spelled CIG's name right. So people went, huh, this game is super like pay to win, but it's free to play right now. Let's see how bad it is. And then people get into it and they're like, oh God, this is fun.
But
And that's
the,
really what's happened, is that
but
this year, a lot of people have had a chance to come back and go, oh, this game is fun now. And new people coming in going like, wait, this is fun. It works now. Because as much as we have problems, people still fall through planets and all those sorts of other issues. Don't get me started on the freaking hangar issues. God, those are the most annoying things, and CIG needs to address those. But they've
yeah,
dealt with most of those issues. Most of the major issues that people complain about, like elevators, I haven't been eaten by an elevator in like 6 months. So, and I just say that, and someone is getting eaten by an elevator as you're listening to this, but
yeah. It always depends.
it's super rare now. It doesn't happen as frequently as it used to be. It's not the game killer. The killer is I call my ship and it's down at the bottom of the hole, and then I try to get my ship back and it blows up. But so the shorter version of this is, I do not think that this is a bad thing, and that CIG has managed this process is significantly better than it used to be, though CIG still has stuff to learn. And that's pretty much the issues that I have with CIG right now on these sorts of progression, like Stormbreaker and Hathor, is more them learning a lesson. I just hope that they learn the lesson and, you know, evolve rather than doing the same thing over and over and expecting people to be happy about it.
A lot of people believe that they have that lesson figured out that CIG needs to learn. I don't think I do. I personally
Mhm.
think that a lot of the frustration that we do see, and honestly, I would say 80% of that frustration is on Reddit. I'm guessing a lot of it's on Spectrum too, but
Mm.
um, there's a lot of threads on Reddit, and a lot of it is about things that I believe the features are going to have an impact on, and because they're not developing features, it's leaving people feeling like this game is just not going anywhere. Um, do you think that there are lessons here that they need to learn that aren't feature related, that are game design related, that things that they're doing wrong, that even if the game functioned how they wanted it to, just would not work for the game they're trying to build?
Star Citizen is not a PvP game. I'm just going to keep saying things that are going to make your comments explode. Um, Star
I like
Citizen
it, dude.
is
We need a controversial episode every once in a while.
Star Citizen is a game with PvP in it. There is PvP, but like I believe it's been a while now, maybe a year and a half or so. But Zach, I forgot his last name, but he's the
Reese,
gentleman in Jack Reese, Zach Reese.
Reese,
Priest. Okay.
yeah.
Zach Priest posted on Twitter. There was a poll that someone did of like, do you PvP or PvE, from a fan. I think it might have been Around the Verse podcast or Beyond the Verse.
Yeah,
Forgot
Beyond the
what
Verse,
Solus's podcast is called, Beyond the Verse.
Beyond it, yeah.
I think he did a podcast. He did a poll about, do you do PvP or PvE, and Zach found it and then retweeted it and was like, quote tweeted it and said, this is numbers even lower than it's actually lower than this, the number of people who actually actively PvP, because the number was like 10% of people PvP'd and 90% didn't. And with more prodding, people were asking, it sounded like that the actual number of people who PvP in Star Citizen is between 5 and 7%. So that is a minority of a minority because combat itself is also a minority. Most people who play
I
Star
wanna
Citizen are like
I wanna
industry or
know,
exploration.
what does that mean though? Because if somebody gets on your ship and you shoot them, is that getting counted as PvP?
Yes, that counts as
Okay.
APP.
If somebody shoots a player and then you come over and you drug them to get them up, does that count as PvP?
I don't know. That's a good question.
If you
Um,
tractor beam somebody's vehicle while they're inside of it, is that PvP?
Probably not. I'm sure it's only interacting with players shooting at other players. Is
Right.
probably what the data they're looking at,
This is
or
the
attacking other
problem
things.
I always run into though, specifically when it comes to like having armistice zones or PvE servers. I'm like,
Mm,
what does that mean for salvage
yeah,
or medical or cargo? Like you can PvP somebody by throwing a box at them.
yeah. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that Star Citizen is also is a pure PVE game. It's just
Yeah,
that
yeah,
the players, the vast majority of players are PVE oriented, not PvP.
right.
So when CIG, and this was a problem they did with 4.42, and it's sort of again stems to a problem that I think a lesson that they have to learn that I don't know if they've learned yet. Was that with 4.2 they did what they usually do, which is whatever the latest event, in this case Stormbreaker, is. All of the Wicklow rewards are tied to those resources.
Yeah.
Um, the problem is that that means that while as before, like Rayari's missions, you still could get those Hathor materials were still valuable for them. Um, that meant that script, which was literally introduced last patch, was pointless, was useless. There was nothing to use it for other than for collecting dust. It was released 3 weeks ago, and CAG was already making it like inconsequential. And it's like that's clearly that because the CIG gets into a pattern and they like their patterns and they want to stay in their patterns because patterns are comfortable. We know
Hmm.
that this works, so we're going to do this, and we're going to keep doing it because we know it works.
Soft and
Um,
cozy.
yeah, and why change it up? We know it works. If we change it up and it doesn't work, then we're screwing everything up. The problem is that you just introduced probably one of the most consequential PVE mechanics that it's going to exist in the game that everyone is going to participate in because I'm sure script will end up being in Transport Guild, in the Miners Guild, in the Salvagers Guild, or all of the different guilds that are going to exist for Star Citizen will have those script, and I'm sure there will be things you can spend them on in the future. The problem is you can't do anything right now because CIG is very locked in on features not coming into the game yet. So since there's no features to use those script for 4.2, them just removing you the ability for you to buy script with or Wicklow favors with script is like, why?
Yeah.
You're
It just
literally
pouring
removing
water
PvE.
on the fire. Like
Yeah.
that
Pouring gasoline on the fire at that point.
it's
But
it's literally like we reached this point. It was just perfect timing too. The way
yeah.
that they brought it in, it was like everybody was like, "Hey, you've introduced this stuff, and we only have one way to do this. Is there an alternative?" And it's not like CIG came out and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna put the minerals in other places, so you go find those minerals." It actually felt like a creative, legitimate alternative to what was being pushed as the main thing in the game, and it simultaneously felt like the beginning of a big change for the game too, because now you could have a reputation gated store and you can go in that
Mm.
store and spend this currency. And now not only can you not spend the currency on the things, but also you can't even stack them correctly in your inventory. And this is where the content development is outpacing the feature development, because
Yeah.
there are several features that would make all of this make more sense.
Well, luckily, I heard, they backtracked because people were very vocal about this to them. And CIG came out and said, there is no plan of doing this. We're just going to do what we've been doing, how it always works with Wicklow. And I think people made somewhat well-reasoned arguments about CIG being stupid. It's like this is stupid. You literally just introduced this 3 weeks ago, and it's now completely pointless. You're remember that trust thing we've been talking about with blades and stuff like that. You're just deciding to take the trust and dump it into a trash can because now I have no reason to play any of your new shiny events because you're just going to move on to the next new shiny event, and anything that I get from that new shiny event after it's no longer new and shiny is pointless. It doesn't
Don't
actually
call them
give me
event pod,
anything.
Paul. You're gonna make Elliot mad.
There's sandbox events. He can Elliot
No, you're
Elliot
gonna
can get
make, dude.
mad.
You're gonna make me mad. Okay, I'm also tired of people calling them events because that's every article, every comment, every thread is focused on this idea that I can't do this right now, and it's at some point people got to understand that while they're making the game for now, they're also making the game for all the people who are going to jump into the actual game in 5 years and want 30 different sandbox things to look at.
Which is good, but there still needs to be a thing you do in order to like a thing you get out of those sandbox
Oh
things,
yeah,
which is valuable.
100%.
And that's the
Yeah,
problem is
yeah,
that CIG is moving from sandbox thing to sandbox thing, and each sandbox thing that's new is the only thing that matters because anything you get from the old sandbox thing is no longer valuable.
yeah.
Ghost Hollow doesn't even work anymore. The first sandbox thing they added to the game doesn't work. They haven't bothered to update it. So, what's to say that Stormbreaker will even work in 4.6? Because CIG doesn't care.
You
You
know,
know,
that's a
Hathor
very
barely
good point.
works.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's the problem with that the lesson that I don't think CIG has learned is that like this is a game you have to maintain. A game when you put in feature or new like content, that content has to stay functional even 3 years after you've built it. So, in the year of stability, you need to make sure that this stuff you learning these lessons of how to build this and how to keep it interesting no matter what, because as you said, someone comes in 3 months and wants to do Hathor or, conflict zone or contested zones, they have to work. And if they don't, there's no point in putting them in the first place because you're putting up a lot of effort into a new thing that's just going to be abandoned 3 months later. And that's been
yeah,
CIG's problem for a long time is they just sort of abandon things after they get the new shiny in. Like most of the 3.0 content features, like the Black Kite mission, the downed caterpillar missions, the the Orison platform missions, they're gone. They're never coming back.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like, that's the problem. It's like, how can we trust that this game is going to last another 10 years if every year they have to rebuild all of their events or all of their things, their sandbox stuff from scratch? Like,
It's a good point. It's a good point. So the 3.0 era felt like that made sense because it was not the content side of it, but the feature side of it, right?
yeah,
They were
new
like,
custom
oh,
features.
we're working on customizing your 325A. We don't have to put that on anything else because it works. We did the ship naming. We don't have to test it on anything else because frankly, it didn't work. But like, you get the idea. It's different with content for sure, especially in the post server meshing age when we're at this point where they're building the actual game. You have a really good point that this is the kind of stuff, even if it's not a FOMO event that you can't do if you don't get to it in the first 2 months, are you going to get a benefit from waiting anyways for like the normal interaction? I got to think about that
Yeah,
because
and
you're right.
that's
They need to keep things up to date.
and that's the thing that needs to happen for that the lesson I think CAG needs to learn that Elliot and his team need to learn as well as the team that works on like um, uh, the economy team and those people they need to learn how that this is what they have to do and I think that's one of the biggest problems when you come to discussion of the main discussions of Stormbreaker is that most people are upset that Stormbreaker exists because they know they won't be able to do it when Stormbreaker comes out because it's just going to be filled with people in their Idrises just shooting everybody they want to because it's going to be a PvP hotspot. But it's not designed as a PvP hotspot because there's only one way in and out. So the only way you can do this is if you have a big group. So like with Hathor, I guarantee you that Hathor is going to be pretty dead when Stormbreaker comes out because everyone's going to be in, you know, Pyro doing Stormbreakers. They're not going to be in Stanton doing Hathor. So you'll see more people doing Hathor, but then you also have the same people being like, why? There's no value to it. And it still requires so much different moving pieces that unless I have a big group, there's no point in me doing it.
At the
So
same time, I
good.
do think there should be benefit of going to these locations and not doing the events, right?
Yeah.
They should be sending mission contracts out here. You should get chances to go and loot and find different materials out here and stuff. And you kind of get that from Hathor, but that's
No,
got to continue for sure.
there needs to be more. There's too much PvP and not enough PvE interactions in the game. And I get it. People have been saying, well, CSG can't do PvE because the back end isn't finished and there's so many other problems. But like, really?
You,
Like this is the year of content. Like this is the year that you should be doing PvE stuff. This should be the stuff the way they learn how to do PvE should be doing that right now.
do you
And
think? I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Do you think if the NPCs were as good as players, that would be a problem?
No,
Like if it was just PvE, but the NPCs were still as good?
no, I don't think. I think that'd be fine. It's the thing about PVE is that PVE, the easiest thing for them to do is combat, and they do okay with PVE combat. But even when it comes to PVE combat, it's like leagues less than the PvP content that's being released because everything they make that's PV like the PVX sandbox activities, those all just are PvP because like if you have a decent enough group, there is no enemy, no PvE enemy that's going to matter. You'll just steamroll them and you move on. They'll become annoying.
But
FPS
if
enemies have gotten better for sure, but like especially AI on ships, they're derpy, super
well,
derpy.
what I'm really wondering is it the fact that they are players that is the problem, or is it the fact that people are just randomly getting killed? If you were to get killed in the same ways by computers, would that be like would players ask for CIG to take those types of NPCs out, or is this
Mm,
something inherently about other players having that effect on you?
It's 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 more how players act. So for instance, at Hathor, there are plenty of people who show up at Hathor just to attack other people. If it was a PvE, if it was a NPC that showed up to attack you at Hathor, people could reasonably understand because there are enemies on the ground that these are just the air elements of that situation. And if
Hmm.
it's hard, people complain that it's hard, but whatever. But also, those AI won't show up in an Idris to ram your ship while it's on the ground just so that you can't get away. The AI will show up in a reasonable ship for the reasonable area to fight you in a way that the game is designed, not ramming you because they have one person or and targeting your doing things that AI don't do, which are effectively to ruin the experience of your average player. You know, trolling people.
Hmm.
Uh, So I I do think that people would probably complain a little bit because obviously skill issue, but I think it becomes less of a excuse because I think that's really the people's excuse right now. It's like, oh, I don't Star Citizen's a PvP game, and then CIG doesn't care about the average person, so I don't care. You know, I why play the game when some jackass who has $1,000 can just buy a ship to troll me at any given point? And but when it's an NPC, it becomes less of a oh well, you know, people them complaining about it. People go okay, well, skill issue, get better. It's a video game. Learn how to be better. But it's also AI is predictable. Even the best AI, you can predict what they're going to do.
Right.
And they're not going to do things that are intentionally designed to ruin your experience. Like they're going to kill you, not destroy your ship and leave you stranded. And so, you can't get anything. You know, Uh, it's behavior rather than um, intelligence. I guess you could say.
It's the teabagging. I get it.
Yeah, it's a teabagging. It's the Tarkov sort of thing where like people play the game like it's a zero sum game when it's shouldn't be.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so
So we kind of got to get away from that. And I'm thinking about the different features that could help here. I mean, engineering obviously would help with keeping those Idris down. Better distortion, E-war, even better surface to air defenses would help with that kind of stuff. gang reputation, faction reputation, I think could help. Like some people will realize if they start doing stuff like that in Pyro, they might have whoever's territory that was in might have problems with them. See, I see the look on your face.
What I'm going to say is, it sounds like we need features. What are
Yes.
these features you speak of? I've never
Yes.
heard of these. In the ancient tomes, they spoke of features
Well,
from
do
the
you
dark
think
days
like
of 2024.
do you think they've put themselves in a bad spot, or do you think this really isn't like? I think a lot of people are. I can't even say a lot of people. A lot of the vocal folks that I have seen, talked to in the last like couple weeks have drastically lost trust in CIG to be able to deliver a cohesive game. And I think a lot of that is because they are currently delivering half a cohesive game. They're delivering the content, but there's none of the features. There's none of that like supportive back end economy kind of stuff that you need. It's just treading water. And because we're not getting that other stuff, like people are kind of pulling away in some aspects. Do you think that this could be a problem for them long term, that they do need to get back to adding features, or can they just go all the way through this whole year, keep pumping out the content, keep pumping out the ships, have the best funding year ever, get a couple extra yachts, and then come back after they've planned for 2 months next year and be like, okay, feature time?
Yes and no. It's also important to recognize that, um, man, I'm just going to say a lot of things that can make people mad today. Uh, Gamers are noisy. Gamers are very noisy. People in general are noisy and opinionated, but gamers are a special breed of noisy and opinionated.
Got that really loud keyboard stuff, you know?
Yeah. I can see the typing down before. Paul doesn't like me. It's like, yeah, you're making my point for me, buddy. It's there from my knowing many devs and following how games have developed over time, because I'm a historian, so I'm fascinated by the history of things. So like when I started really getting into content creation, I started looking into games. Like gamers is a with a V, I think is the middle with like
Yeah.
what Universe A.
Givemers. Yeah.
Givemers.
The
They
documentaries.
do really good documentaries. That's really what got me into like researching more into other games and how they've developed, especially the games that I play, and even reaching out to some of those devs who worked on those games to on like social media to ask them a little bit about their experience. And the general thing is that most gamers don't understand that how games are made, because games are absolutely impossible. It's a miracle any game has ever made. And the problem is that every person thinks they know. Even game developers think they know how a game should be made, but every game is made differently. There is no blueprint for game development. It is an art for a reason, because everyone approaches it in different matters. Sometimes people learn something from, say, their time at Blizzard, and they try to adapt to that. But other people will take that and go, well, I learned how to make this game at DICE, but I don't like this, or this. I'm going to change it up and try it this way instead. And that process changes from developer to developer.
Right.
So even other developers are like, well, this is done wrong. It's not how we do it. And what I'm trying to say is that this is the problem, is that no matter what CIG does, there are going to be people who have opinions that CIG is doing something wrong. And those people are the loudest because they're not playing the game. The people you want feedback from in terms of like what's going on are the people who are actively playing the game. And that's the hardest thing, because people who are happily playing the game don't go on to YouTube to write comments about games or comment on social media about games.
I mean, I
Like,
love looking up all the games that I love and commenting on random videos about topics that I have no interest in.
like, so it's hard to get feedback from to filter the feedback. So I couldn't tell you if the people who you're talking to are 100% right that CIG is losing the plot, and it's sort of like in a downward spiral, because it's also June, and we all know what happens in the
We're
summer with Star
always in a
Citizen.
downward spiral
It,
in June.
it's always it's from June to August, and it's the worst in late July, early August is the worst. So like everyone is going to think that Star Citizen is a failing project come July. Let me see a good date. July 19th.
17th, 19th. Okay.
Yes, between the 17th and the 19th, you will have a large group of people who will come out, and someone will put a compilation video about all the time CIG talked about the Banu Merchantman, and it's going to get a million view, or it'll get 30,000 views, and people will do response videos to it and get rage about it. And an article will be written from some gaming magazine about, the $800 billion game that nobody can play, and the normal shit, because the
I was
summer
gonna
is
say this sounds like experience.
this is the thing that happens every summer.
I
So
mean,
that's
2
why it's
years
hard for
ago,
me. Yeah.
2 years ago it was post 318, right?
Yeah.
Last year it was Master Modes. This year it'll be Stormbreaker. Next year
Well,
it'll be base building.
yeah. So something. So it's hard. I point those out because it's hard to tell the difference between if this is true or if this is just noise. So I have a feeling that CIG can't do just content all year long, because as a company, they're made up of people who make video games, and the things that frustrate us are the things that frustrate them. So me putting myself in CIG's shoes, I would be super uncomfortable if I was working on a new feature and it was like I'm ready for it to be tested, and the higher ups are constantly like, well, the game isn't ready yet. It's like, but it's done. I need people to test this. I need to know if it's good or not. So I think they're going to do features before the end of this year. But
Is that
go ahead.
EPTU, or do you mean live? Because we kind of know they're doing EPTU soon.
Both.
Yeah.
I think they're going to do
Okay.
EPTU, but I have a feeling that CIG will still get out engineering part 1 of 6. We don't know how many parts.
Oh my God.
But that's how CIG works. They have this new feature, and then they're like, all right, this is a big feature. We're gonna get it all done. And then it gets to the actual like implementation. They're like, okay, it was bigger than we thought, and we're gonna split it up into like 4 different parts, and then it's gonna take them 4 years to get it done.
Yeah, they just split engineering into different milestones in the monthly report.
Yep, and they talked about that at BCon, I think, or Con 42. They talked about that at Con 42. Like they need to do that. So yeah, engineering, because they're in that process of splitting up to different parts. Yeah, that's coming out this year. Like It won't be what you want. It won't be what everybody hopes, but it'll be more than we have now.
Everybody hopes. I mean, that's another one of those things that if you listen to only certain amount of people, you would think this is one of the worst features coming into the game.
It's one of the main features, though.
Yeah.
It's the game.
How
it's
things
like
work.
It's like complaining about like, well, I don't want grenades in an FPS game. It's like it's an FPS game. It's kind of a standard feature for most FPS games to have grenades.
Yeah. I mean, I find engineering interesting because people are so people get very unhappy about the idea of it. First of all, before we've gotten to try it, but also without thinking about the benefits. It's like it's all a negative view of it rather than like an expansion of the gameplay, which is a bummer because I think everyone's going to benefit from that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're already getting new missions because of it.
Of course. And I do think that it's going to be better overall. I think it comes down to what is noise and what is real. And the problem being that most people who are giving feedback are noise. As much as people don't want to admit it, if we talked
Leave your
about
comments down below.
Yeah, leave your 4-paragraph comments on how we're wrong down below. That's really going to be
Whoa,
helpful for
hey, don't say
CIG.
we. This is all him. All right. I didn't call you guys noise.
I'm not saying everyone is noise. I'm just saying that the vast majority of feedback is noise because it's not actual feedback coming from the game. And it's hard to judge if somebody is giving valuable feedback because, hey, I have experienced this bad thing in the game. I would like to figure out how to needs to be fixed. Like I said earlier, they need to fix the freaking like ship elevators. Dear God, do they need to fix the ship elevators? Those things are
They
the
really
most
do.
annoying, broken things in the game right now. It is a complete stopper of momentum for play. When you go in and you try to like get a ship to come up and it doesn't show up, or it endlessly loops of like, oh, we can't pull your ship up right now, or we can't like it's such a problem. But there's a difference between saying, "Hey, they need to focus on this. This needs to be one of their major features because this is a just kills the kind of flow of the game." And someone experiencing that, and then, the dog is barking, the kid is crying, their spouse is like, "Hey, you need to do this thing I asked you to do 2 weeks ago." And their job is like, "Hey, Mark is out. We need you to come in on your day off to help out." And like you just got back from that, you just sat down to play the game, and on top of that, your ship doesn't get called up, and that person then just fucking loses it on social media, and just because like shit is bad, and the game that they play to try to get rid of that stress just spat in their face, and they just fucking explode. Like, I get that. That's a normal human reaction. Is that valuable feedback? Is that going to help the devs know what to do and what not to do? That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is filtering that out. And so, as somebody who's following the game a lot, from what I can gather of all of the sources I can tell, I don't think CIG is doing the wrong direction. I think this is the right direction, and I don't think they're they're. I think we're still going to see them add new content, but I also think they're going to add new features. But I don't think it's going to be because people are like, the game is boring, I need new features. It's because the devs want to get the features in so they can get feedback, so they can fix the problems and change what they need to change. Because they know whatever engineering version 1 is, it's not going to be the same as the final version of engineering. I mean, think about mining, how mining has changed in the last, 6 years it's been out. It's significantly different than when it was originally.
Yeah.
And we'll still see it evolving from there. So, sorry, it was a long answer, but a
No,
long
no.
answer for rage bait comments.
Got him. So in terms of direction, focusing on the content, focusing on playability, it's not necessarily robbing them of having a good year. It's just redirecting their priorities a little bit. It does sound like you don't think it's sustainable in the way that it's been going on, but it sounds like you do think that even something like Stormbreaker, with the way that it works outside of like the bottleneck parts, this is good stuff for the players.
I do think so. I think this content is good as long as CIG learns the lesson that they need to maintain it. Because like Hathor is still hit or miss, and it's been 2 patches since it's been released. If Hathor is still functioning in 4.4, then yeah, CIG
Okay.
has. I think it's a good thing because
We'll see.
yeah.
Do you think there?
And maybe they'll learn a little lessons about how to filter out players a little bit better. So it's not just trolls in an Idris being able to do what they want.
Well, do you think that they are in a position to introduce activities, sandbox activities specifically, not events, but like regular content that people can go and do and find alternative, interesting conclusions from, but in more civil scenarios that don't involve combat? Because before you answer this, just to put the caveat out there, like you said, this is not a PvP game, but it is a game that will allow for PvP basically anywhere you go. And so that being accepted, there do need to be ways to still enjoy an experience without feeling like you're going to get shot. And we know we're going to have instance locations. We know you're going to have very high security. But do you think right now there's really a reason for them to try and double down on that kind of stuff?
Um, I don't think they have the ability to do that. Like honestly, I don't think they have the technology or the features to create PVE experiences that are not that are better crafted. I think there are ways they could do it because especially with like new features like the storm stuff, there's things they could do. They could tweak some things to make it better, but I don't think they have the experience or the technology to make a mining event happen without it requiring some sort of combat or a salvage event happen without some sort of combat.
Why?
Um, because the threat, there always needs to be a threat. There needs to be some sort of um, hazard that you're doing. Because if you're
But
just mining, it's not an event. That's or like a sandbox city. That's just mining. you know, so there needs to be some twist, some threat, some risk to yourself. And the easiest way to add risk is shooting at you. There is storms and weather and other hazards which they're introducing, but they're just not there yet. Once those hazards are there, when you have valuable mining inside of a comet, which is only going to come through at a certain amount of time, and that comet is just brimming with radiation, and so you only have a certain amount of time that you have to time to figure out how long it takes for you to get in, mine, and get out, then yeah, that something like that will be great because there's no combat. It's all focused on PvE experiences, and you might even be able to instance it. But you need A to be able to scan for those things. B, these things need to be able to show up periodically and randomly, which we don't have either of those technologies in Star Citizen yet. And C, you need to have instancing, which just doesn't exist yet outside of hangars, and the hangars are derpy as hell. So like those sorts of things are technology you just don't have in the game yet. And so as a result, they just aren't going to be available.
so combat's easy.
It's easy. They have it for Squadron, you know?
That's kind of what that's where I'm at too. And
Yeah.
then generally the conversation comes back to around to yeah, but the design still has problems. And I think everybody is not everybody. I think a lot of people are just waiting to see that that idea of this is a game where I can choose what I want to do and get ahead in some way. And like we're very much missing that from the content because like you said, it's so combat focused. We don't have economy, we don't have risk, we don't have consequence, we don't have death of a spaceman, none of this stuff that would make normally arbitrary actions seem more valuable. So they just always turn back to guns. And
Mhm.
when do you think that's going to end? Like, when do you think they'll
Next y-
finally be able to start focusing on other types of stuff?
Next year, I think it'll be the start of it, not the like January 1st, 2026. Suddenly, everyone's
Mark your
having a good
calendar.
time. It'll be like I said, they have radiation now, right? So they'll do some instance event, the like classic go through the fog barrier of a Dark Souls game where like you and your buddies go fly through a storm and that hides a loading screen where you're dropped into an instance event, and that instance event is filled with radiation and maybe dangerous fauna, or you've got you're timed in terms of how much time you have in that area, and you have to navigate through places and get your scrap or your minerals and get out, sort of thing, like a classic extraction shooter sort of experience without the shooter. That kind of thing that could probably happen in like June of next year.
Mark your
And
calendars.
yeah,
Put it.
I said
Put a
it. I
quote by
promise.
Paul next to it.
It's a
Yep.
promise. Yeah, CIG Paul. Something like that could happen in like say June of next year, but it'd still probably have a little bit of combat, like Copians or some chances of having the Valakar show up. But like that's not the main focus. That's sort of just the ambient threat on top of the environment, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
dark and
No,
stormy and stuff like that.
knowing CIG, they will at least get like aggressive plants in there or something to annoy
Yeah.
you.
But
Uh,
it won't be like the main focus. It'll just be another threat you have to think about other than the ambient threats. And the other thing I was going to say is they talked about this in monthly reports: dynamic server meshing. They need that technology to be able to do some of these things that people want. So
Yeah, I wonder how that lands with people after waiting for server meshing for so long. Now we're finally getting content, and it's markedly different. Actually, we're going to talk about this in a second. It is definitely different from other years. And we talked about towards the beginning of this year how we'd probably get like halfway through this year, and then people would start calling for features. And I don't think we're at the point where people are doing that yet. I think this is like we want something to change, and a lot of people don't know it's the features that they want to keep coming to make these changes happen. But we're getting to that point where inevitably, yes, CIG, you're making a game out of what we have right now, but that's starting to show the signs, it's starting to show the cracks. So, um, yeah, they gotta start changing things up a little
Mhm.
bit. I wanted
I think
to
I think
go ahead.
I'll just end up with, I think the main issue is the frustration around the minority of the minority being catered to versus the vast majority of players who just want to hop on and play this space game. You know, maybe not do PPUs, maybe just run cargo. You know, something as simple as scanning could improve CIG's ability to do. And like I've seen a lot of people say, bring back like random stops, like NPCs stop you and scan you. You know, stuff like that would, scanning and that would make smuggling gameplay fun.
Yeah,
Even if it wasn't super profitable, it would be fun. You
yep,
know, so
absolutely. It's yeah, I get it. I get that there are a lot of people who want content where they can't get attacked by other people. I personally like that danger and risk of that always being a possibility, but I
yeah,
also
I do
understand
too.
that like right now it doesn't even work like that. It's not really a chance of risk for a lot of people. It feels like it's a constant risk that will affect you, and because there aren't enough locations spread throughout areas that should be considered safer, like next to cities and stuff, people are being dragged out to all the most random spots, and that's not really working out. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I could see how the problems are coalescing. I do want to ask, though, how you think this compares to other years, because I think most people would say we've never really had updates like this before. How do you feel like this is going compared to previous years? Is this better, worse, the same, different ways?
I think it's significantly better. There is more engagement in Star Citizen than there's ever been before. Like this time last year, we were talking about where the next patch is going to be. Like that was the discussion. When is the next patch? Now we're talking about what's in the game. Why is CIG bad at making the game? Not like why is CIG not making the game, which is
Yeah.
a nice change.
Yeah, I always looked forward to that time when we wouldn't be arguing so much about like the design of the pledge store or something like that, which we still do. I mean,
Yeah.
we're faithful, but it's the conversations have definitely changed a lot than they from a few years ago.
And I think that's a good sign that CIG is doing the right thing in terms of I think the monthly patch cadence is good. In fact, um, I just wish that the monthly patch cadence also came with more stuff. Like I like the idea that they have, and even going forward, it seems like they're going to keep doing this because they already have plans for like the major story arcs of next year. Um, Having a major patch and then a bunch of minor patches that fix a bunch of things is fine, but also having, a ship here and a new sort of small event there, that's better because it gets people to come back and say, oh yeah, well there's this timed event that's going on. Oh, they introduced a new sandbox activity. Oh, a new ship came out. Like there's always something for somebody to do. And I will say that I've been playing the game off stream more than I've played in a long time. I'm not
Okay.
exactly enjoying my experience as much as I am when I'm on stream. Um, because while I do think that the ships are kind of derpy, I've been trying to do, somewhat difficult bounty missions so that I can get script, so I could, get Wicklow favors, because I'm gonna get myself an ATLS ICTY when it comes out, come hell or high water, and
Hmm.
you need favors to do that. So I've been trying to grind up script to get favors, and doing it solo. It's like I can do 2 or 3 missions, and then I just get freaking punched in the face repeatedly by the NPCs, like, unfairly. Um, but that also feels better than me trying to play the game in with 4.0 and like it just not working and
Hmm.
being like, well, this sucks sort of situation.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think I'm noticing. I mean, I enjoy the game more while I play it,
mm,
and that kind of started to happen. I think 323 was actually a big turning point for that, just because systems started to feel usable to some extent. Um, but the game is definitely more playable than it's ever been. It's hard to like deny that, especially with server meshing actually being functional. In terms of the overall experience from um, the ship sales that they're doing, the money they're bringing in, the kind of health of the community, and also their own communication from ISC to Star Citizen Live. Does it feel like? Oh my God, what was I? I just lost my train of thought. Does it feel like they are doing better this year on those aspects as well compared to
yes and
previous
no.
years?
Yes and no. I mean, I understand why ISE is so limited now, because like they only can do an ISC when they have stuff to talk about, and they don't have stuff to talk about other than what's coming into the patches. So it's pretty much an ISC a month,
Yeah,
with like 1 or 2 ship videos. Um, but like that sucks, and a lot of people I know are like, oh well, what are we paying my subscription for? It's like, you you're not. Don't stop paying for subscriptions for ISE. Like if you're going to pay for a subscription, pay for the other things, and CIG needs to
yeah.
improve that system as well. But like in terms of communications, I think they're gotten better at it, but I also think that the monthly cadence has helped that, because there's a lot more of I feel like there's a lot more of a back and forth, specifically with balance and with gameplay, than there has been in the past. Um, but it also doesn't need to be as much content. Like CG doesn't need to make as much content, because for like video content, because they've got game content. So the game can speak for itself rather
Yeah, but
than
I like
players.
videos.
I do too,
I
but
want to talk about features, man.
I Tomato, I think you and I are going to have to realize that we're coming to that point, maybe another year or so, where our content is going to have to be about the video game, not about talking about the video game.
I mean, it feels like it genuinely feels like attention is pushing. It just pushes every YouTube channel that covers Star Citizen more and more to just cover news,
Yeah,
because anything that is not about, I think this is especially true of this year because of all this just fast-paced stuff. It's like the attention span has completely died, and you don't really talk about like a feature that's 2, 3, 4 months away. Possibly you talk about something that's happening right now, or something that showed up in the patch notes, or something that's leaked out from the next upcoming patch. But it's certainly changing in real time very quickly what's
yeah,
important in the community, I think.
yeah, and I think that's the thing, is that most video game content out there, in terms of content, video content, is about one of 3 things: story, story and lore, news, and guides. Those are the 3 things that you see most content about.
Yeah.
So podcasts like this are nice, and I'm sure people will still listen to them in their free time. But if we're not covering the latest news, or like discussions about what's going on in the game, I don't see like I don't see like theory crafting as much in Star Citizen as it used to be, because we actually have the game, and the focus seems to be much more on interacting with the game, which is good, I think. And while I like videos myself too, I love watching CIG's content. I especially love when CIG managed to do some creative content, like bring back Garmin Humble. You know, as
Yeah,
much
that's
as
good.
people didn't like Molly, bring me back Molly. You know, I'd love to see that sort of thing. I'm the kind of guy who watched all of the shows in GTA 4 on the television because I thought it was fascinating. I play Cyberpunk 2077. I stop in the elevators to listen to the news reports because I'm just like, ooh, fascinated. Like
Nerd.
me, I am, but like I like that stuff, but I also like it in game.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's that sort of that process. I want more video stuff too, but I want it in game. So
Yeah, I feel you. Definitely about the game that's on right now, and you know what? That's good for them.
mhm.
Unfortunately, the monthly reports feel like the only real regular open sort of development facing thing now. Roadmap's basically
Oh yeah,
gone. Progress trackers barely being
dead.
used.
Yeah,
ISC, SCL, calling out devs, all that stuff's not really happening. So we're moving more towards traditional game stuff, and even covering what CIG themselves have said about features is just not as interesting anymore. So I recognize that. But ultimately, it's better for the game. Like, the game's in a better place. The understanding about the game, as much as people probably, especially folks who aren't really happy about the current updates, feel like the game's not in a good place and it's
mhm,
dying and they're killing the ideas and they're proving they can't make a game. Um, I genuinely think that it's never been better. Might
yeah,
not be saying much, but it's still better.
yeah. No, I think they need to find a balance. As much as this is a year of balance, a year of like content and a year of balance for CIG, like fixes and such. I think it's also a year of learning. CIG has to learn these things because as much as someone's going to say, "Oh, well, they're on 13 years in and they're still learning. They're learning how to make the games." Like, yeah, that's how
Yeah.
game development works. Destiny was made in like 9 months after being in development for like 4 years. Same with Destiny 2. Same with pretty much
Name
every
a
game.
freaking game. Yeah.
Yeah, almost all games are made in a very short period of time because most of that time is set up to develop the technology and the infrastructure and the back end
Mismanaged a
and
little bit.
yeah, every game
Couple
company
false
is
starts.
mismanaged. I swear to
Yeah.
God. Um, and then it's the actual game that you play is actually the process of once all those parts are in place, then the tools are available and the developers can go make. But it takes that time to get those tools up, and we're just starting to see those tools added. So, as much as I'm going to give shit to Elliot to make the game better, uh, Elliot doesn't know how to make missions for Star Citizen, and that's not a hit on Elliot. It's because nobody knows how to make missions for Star Citizen. Elliot and his team are learning what works and what doesn't. So if something is boring, they're like, "Well, that didn't work. We need to fix it like this." And that process takes time and trial and error. And so it can be frustrating because CIG is making the game more stable than it's ever been before, and it's more approachable than it's ever been before, while also doing things that people are like, "Well, I don't want that. I want this."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right. I know that was supposed to be the last question. I have one more to ask you real quick before we go.
sure.
They talked about investigation missions a while ago. We've seen maintenance missions come into the game, ICC probes, little things like this. These aren't sandbox activities, but they could be missions added to the contracts. They did something similar. Actually, the first narrative missions I think they've added to the game as a system were
Mhm.
these recent sort of solo focused space combat things. Most people will not even give that a second thought when talking about what's been going on. You know, everybody's saying, oh,
Mhm.
all they're focused on is PvP, all they're focused on is org stuff, but they just added narrated PvE combat missions for solo players.
Yeah.
So missions are not, for whatever reason, getting the credit for being added to the game. Do you think that those investigation missions and maintenance missions and stuff like that would be enough to satisfy the players who feel like all these sandbox activities are so focused on larger groups and PvP stuff?
Yes and no. I think a lot of people will be very happy with them when they first come out. And then a month later, they'll be like, I'm bored.
Do
And
you
I want
not
something
think
new.
they'll feel the same way about these sandbox activities?
Yeah, of course they will. But the problem is also, I guess the word is myopic. We're too focused on next patch. Like this is the window we're looking through when we're trying to see the game. But then if you're a player who's just coming into Star Citizen in 2025, this is the window. Because as much as I talked about how we have lost so many different things in the game, um, there's a lot of stuff to do in Star Citizen. Like some released games, AAA games have less content than Star Citizen has. So like Hathor itself will feel old by the time the end of this year happens, but it is still an engaging location. The key is, I think the key is that CIG needs to do is to make these things more, like I said, to not give them away, like an investigation mission. They need to make investigation missions function. And then they need to constantly put out new investigation missions. They need to have the technology in place where a team of 3 people can sit down and bang out a new investigation mission and do like 3 of them a month, release them to the players, and maybe go back to old investigation missions and change them up a little bit here and there. Same with like repair missions. As long as they can get the loop working well, which I think they did pretty well with like the cargo missions. So like say like repair missions where, you got one of those like mech engineer sort of games where, the elevator comes up and it's like, fix this ship. And you have to like reverse hard space shipbreaker it, where you have to find the right parts and put it together and cobble it together. And then, finish, hit the button, it goes down, you get your money and it brings up a new ship. As long as that loop is engaging and fun, then people will get lost in it. But there will always be people who get bored. So it's a balance of new content, which is exciting and interesting, and making that content repeatable, which I don't think CIG is really perfected yet. Once they can get, and that's the thing you'll hear a lot of people talk about, is I want a repeatable, fun gameplay loop that doesn't require me to pick up a gun. If they can hit those 3 things, then they'll be golden. But I don't think they'll be able to do that right off the bat. I think they will learn how to do it though.
I hope so. All right, man. Thank you so much for joining me for this talk. I think this is a great look at JumpShip, a little bit of Cyberpunk 2 there, guys. I told you we were going to talk about other games today, but obviously we had to get a full hour of Star Citizen discussion in, and I think this was a great look at, honestly, just like this was a good catch up on where the game is right now and how the strategy this year is going. So thank you so much for joining me for this. Can you let the folks know where they might find more of your incredibly antagonistic hot takes?
Twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, YouTube.com/TheAstroPub Live. If you want this kind of content, if you want my lore content, I just released a new video on the regen crisis. So telling you everything you need to know about what regen is in game, plus like the lead up that we know about what's led into the regen crisis. That's available on youtube.com/TheAstroHistorian, where I've also done lore videos on Cyberpunk, Starfield, Titanfall, and Star Citizen as well.
Good games.
And if you want podcast content like this, I do a weekly podcast called The Captain's Table Podcast at youtube.com/TheAstro at The Captain's Table Podcast.
That's also a good one. Check that out. I will be on there next week, and it'll be good fun. And also, go find his lore videos and leave all the comments about all the other things you don't like about the game in those lore videos. Just
I specifically love when you talk about master modes in a lore video about the Tavaran. Everyone loves that.
Talks about it in his sleep here.
Tell me about how you absolutely despise CIG's monetization processes in a lore video about food.
The food.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Thanks again for joining us. Like I said, we should be back up to date with the studio, with this equipment, with the GPU and the RAM and all the stuff next week. So stay tuned. Check out throughout the week for any other content coming up. I'll see you all next week. Thanks again for coming. I think I said that backwards. Oh well. Bye.